we are. Alright. Perfect. Okay. Sorry, y'all. My face cam decided it wanted to not work today. Let's see here. Get it opened up. Make sure y'all can hear me. Hopefully. Don't see commenting. I don't see captions. Okay, there's Linnell. Hey sis, can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. My face camera decided it didn't want to work this morning, so I'm a little bit late. Please let me know if you can hear me. Oh, okay, finally closed captioning is coming up on my side. Yay. Maybe we've got everything working. Good morning, sis. Hello. I can, a little low. Okay, hang on. Let me see where it's showing on my side. I'll turn up a little bit. I just don't want to blast y'all's eardrums. Okay, is that any better? Okay, let me know if that's any better, sis. Perfect, okay. Now apologize in advance. Perfect. Hey, Mama. I woke up with a little bit of a sore throat today. Subbing at the school all week. There is this weird 2 days, something or the other going around. And I'm afraid it may have hit me when I was in band the other day. Because that band director that was there, the one that I was subbing for, was out sick with the same thing that he thought he was coming down with. And so he was coughing and hacking and everything all day. And I think he gave it to me. So we're going to do our best to get through today. But I apologize in advance if I cough. But we're going to make it through. We'll be okay. I don't know if anybody else is going to join us today. I know that I've talked to you, sis, and Mom about kind of what y'all have out for today. So I want to make sure that I cover what y'all are wanting to know. I'm not sure what others are wanting to do today, but if anybody else hops on, I can ask them. I don't know if Teresa will be on today or not, but she's done plenty of mold pourings, so I don't know if any of this would be new to her or not. But if I don't cover something that y'all want to know, let me know along the way. So some of the things that I came with today, I brought, like, this is just a tray mold. This one I think is going to be a pretty simple, straightforward one to kind of show y'all how to do some different things with. So I brought that one. I did bring a set of coasters with me. Actually, I brought a few sets of coasters with me today. But this one is a bee, like a honeycomb set. So this is the actual holder. So when you turn it this way, all of the coasters that came in this mold actually fit in it. But all of the coasters are shaped like little beehives too, or honeycombs. So I brought those. That's this set. I brought a jar. This is the actual jar itself that you pour upside down, of course, and then the little, I don't know if y'all can see them in the camera, but the little like screw pieces are right here, and then this is the lid, and it has the screw on parts built into it as well. So there's a jar. I brought, this is just a little clear mold that I brought with me. This one isn't a really thick mold, which you can kind of see in the camera there. This one is also clear, This one would be good if you're wanting to do UV resin with it, because with the UV resin, if you use it in a mold, you have to be able to get the UV light on the top and the UV light on the bottom. So if you're using UV resin or want to use UV resin in your molds, make sure it is a clear mold, which, I mean, I know I say clear, it looks a little frosted. That's just because the silicone isn't completely clear, but you would need to use a mold like this, and it wouldn't be able to be super duper thick, so that the UV light can penetrate all the way through. And then this is another set of coasters. These are just circles. And this one that I brought, this set is actually, I'm hoping y'all can see this in the camera, but we'll see. So these are also coasters, but what I really think about these that's really neat, those two are probably gonna be the hardest to see in the camera. We'll see if y'all can see these. These are what they call holographic molds, and so you want to pour like a dark or darker resin on top of these, whether you put like a deep purple or black or something like a mica, or you really wouldn't want to use glitter necessarily. I mean, I guess you could, just the effect wouldn't be so in your face, so noticeable. But these are holographic. So the holographic part of these molds is built in. So like, let's see if I can, these have a little design on them, and it may be super hard to tell in the camera because I can't, you can kind of sort of see it at certain angles. But they have like a holographic design built into them, and so you don't have to worry about putting a design on them because it's already built in, and it's going to have that holographic effect when you demold them, when you take them out. So that's kind of the neat things about these. They do make lots of different holographic molds now. I've had these for a little bit, but they got super popular, so there's a ton of different ones now. And then, as you can see on my table, I have the straw topper molds here. We can pour a few of those if y'all want to, but today I'm going to show y'all how to put them together, because a lot of people get really intimidated by these 4 pieces, and it's really not anything to be intimidated by. You just have to know how to put them together. But if you just line them up, it kind of makes sense. I mean, they only fit one way. So I brought these, or I have these up here. These are ones that we've poured in a couple of past classes with extra epoxy. So we're going to show you how, I'm going to show you how to put these together today. But then I'm also going to show y'all, I meant to bring some horror guy little knives that me and sis actually poured when we had some extra epoxy from one of our cups at the house. And I was going to show y'all how to paint the insides of these, and I left them at the house. But these butterflies also have the divots that need to be painted, so we're going to go over that with those. This green one also does. And then I realized after I got here, and I don't know if I have any acetate here, but I brought some shaker molds with me as well. These are already poured. I've had them poured, and they've, they're cured and everything already. But shaker molds are molds that they have like an open cavity in them after they're cured, which is, oh, I didn't get those out, which is built into the mold. And this raised part is where like the inside goodies go. Okay, so here's a ghost, and you can see it has the solid ghost in the middle. So that is how you get this open part right here. And that's how you can put your stuff on the inside. And then after they're cured, like after it's cured, what you do is you take and you put your little goodies in here. Like some people have, these are just little clay pieces that I got. I used to always get them from Maple Street, and then she cut way back on her stuff. I don't know if she still carries these or not. I know she's been struggling like a lot of us in the crafting community, but Maple Street Supply, she is such a sweet lady, and that's where I've gotten a ton of my clays from. But you can put clays in them, which is what this is, and then like a little bead in here. And then after you get it filled, you can do them a couple of ways. You can choose to put liquid in it so that everything kind of flows like this. Okay, kind of just flows around. Or you can do it just a dry shaker. There's no liquid inside. If you're going to do anything for kids, you definitely want to go more of the dry shaker way instead of the liquid, because if they drop it after so long, it could actually break the seal between the acetate and the resin that seals this in. So if you're going to do it for kids, I recommend not doing liquid inside. And I mean, it's still cute. It still shakes. To me, it's just safer this way. But after you feel it, you would take an acetate sheet, which is kind of like, I know a lot of us in here are old school. So, like the transparencies that teachers would use on an overhead projector, it's the same material. You just take and you just cut the shape. So what I do is, like, I line my acetate sheet up here, and I'll cut it just kind of a little bit bigger than my mold. And then I'll just take a Sharpie and I draw the shape of my design, and I kind of take and I draw the line like in between the inside and the outside, because you want this resin to be able to seal it in. So you want some of your resin to be actually going onto the resin piece, and then the rest of it over the acetate to seal it all together. So you want to kind of go mark it about halfway around. You cut it, and then you just put a thin bead of UV resin all the way around. You lay your acetate sheet on it, make sure that you get it down and that it's all connected. There's no air bubbles or anything under it. And then you cure it. And then you take and you dome the whole thing with UV resin. And people get scared by the word dome too, but literally all that is you're covering it with UV resin and smoothing it out just to create like that sealed in dome finished look. That's all it is. So don't get intimidated by that. So I was hoping to show all these today, but I don't have a sheet of acetate that I can see here at the store. But if I can get some time, I may do this online or at the house, or I may show y'all. Well, Zoom isn't recorded next weekend. Anyway, we'll figure it out. But I will show y'all how to finish off one of these, since I fell flat and forgot my acetate at the house. So, and this is also a straw topper mold, but this one, like, you can see the hole is built into the mold. So, like, literally all you do is pour this one, you pop it out, and it slides on. So we can go over that. Let's see. Okay. We're just gonna get started and kind of go from there. A couple of pointers that I will say for mold pouring. I know a lot of people now are used to doing it on cups, and we mix it in those little things, these little guys, these little cups. If you're doing something small, like if you wanted to do the 2-part resin on these, this cup would be fine. But when you're doing something more like this or these, this is gonna take you forever. So you want to mix this in something a little more like these if you're doing something large. Now I have, which y'all can see right here on the corner of my screen, I have what's called an epoxy mixer, so I can turn it on and it mixes my epoxy for however long that I need it to, and then I just turn it back off and it does it itself, instead of me sitting here mixing for 5 minutes. But let me tell you, I did the hand mixing for 5 minutes for a long time before I finally got one of those. But so if you don't have one of those, you can totally still do what we're doing today. It's not going to be a problem. There's something on my mold, sorry. But if you plan on doing a lot of molds to save your hand, you might want to invest in one of those. And I think I have some listed on my Amazon store, but if not, I can definitely get one on there after class. Okay, so we're gonna start with a pretty basic tray mold here, and I'm just gonna kind of show y'all how to kind of do like some different patterns or different pours. I know, Mom, you are working on an anchor one, and you got the blue glitter to make it look like the sea with your silver anchors, which is super cool. And you're going to put vinyl on that if I'm not mistaken. So there's two ways you could do that. What you could do is you could take and you could pour a clear layer, and you can let that completely cure, and then you would go back over that clear layer with your mix of your glitter and your epoxy to do the rest of it. But before you pour that next layer of glitter and epoxy, you would actually put your vinyl saying on that clear one. Keep in mind, if you do it that way though, Mama, or anybody, you would want to mirror cut your adhesive, and in doing that you would want to make sure that you're using like a 651 or a 631 from Oracle, where they're the same color on both sides. If you're wanting to do it in a glitter or holographic or metallic or something like that, you would want to go ahead and pour your mold completely with your glitter, whatever else, and then when you demold it, when you take it out, pretend this is my removed tray. When you take it out, then you would put your wording down, and then you would just pour a thin layer of just clear 2-part epoxy in there to seal in your vinyl. So 2 different ways you can do that. So for me today, what I'm going to show y'all is I'm going to kind of do like a beach theme with it, because I know that Mama wants to do the footprints in the sand for Dad. So I'm going to kind of show y'all how to do like a beachy kind of theme with this one. And then that way you can kind of get an idea of how to pour different ones. And then after that, we'll go from there after that. Okay, so we're going to start with this one. I'm going to grab me some beachy colors. I'm going to put all the rest of these to the side over here. Use this one actually. Let's see. So I'm going to let's get a sandy color. So we're going to do Sunbathe, and then let's find us some blue for our water. Let's do Surfside. Surfside's got to be a good blue for water, right? It's called Surfside. And then we'll mix in a little Just Keep Swimming. And I'm going to do a little bit of, Call Me Captain's going to be pretty. I'm going to do a little bit of Call Me Captain. Now, just because this is what I do, doesn't mean that this is how many colors that you have to do. Typically, whenever you're doing something on the beach, you kind of start with like a white or a light sand color to do the foam that comes up on the sand whenever the ocean washes in. And then you do your sand, and then it's like a lighter blue that fades into a dark blue, just so like as if you were standing on the beach. You have the foam coming in from the water, you have the sand. The closest water to you see is like a lighter blue, but then as it gets out into the deep sea, it gets darker. So that's kind of the effect I try to go with mine, but that doesn't mean you have to do that with yours. You do whatever you want it to do on yours. So I'm going to start by mixing my epoxy. Now on these, do not use speed dry, fast set, quick set, whatever you want to call it, epoxy. And the reason for that is the agents that's in those to make them cure that quick, they also get really hot when they are curing, when that chemical reaction is happening. And if you use that in your mold, it actually could get so hot that it melts into your silicone mold, and your mold is trash after that, because your epoxy cured into your silicone of your mold. So I recommend using either Dr. Crafty, which is what I've started out with for my mold pourings. It's what I've used, oh gosh, since probably like a month after I started doing molds. I like this one the best. And so this is the one I use. It is on my Amazon thing. But since then, the glitter guy has come out with one that's called Crystal Cast. It's a standard curing epoxy, and a lot of people seem to really like it. So I bought a sample of that to try, But then also Mr. Nola's, because y'all know I love my Nola's Fast Set, they have what's called a glass coat. Now this is their old, come back here. Their old formula. They have gone to a new formula with these. And so the labels look different, and they've added the blue, which is kind of what you can see in these. They've added that blue tint. And what that blue tint is, don't freak out if you get an epoxy with blue tint. What that is it's an additive that they've started putting in epoxies to help combat the yellowing that happens over time. Because you can see that this one is starting to yellow. And you can see my hardener part of this one is starting to yellow. But that's just the nature of epoxy. It's going to yellow. It just is. It just is what it is. It's going to happen. Just how it's made. It's going to happen. So, don't freak out if yours is a little yellow. If it's super yellow, you might want to get you some new, but don't throw away the old. If it's super yellow, you can still use the old, but just use it with darker color glitters and things like that. So a dark purple or dark blue or black or whatever. Use it for that purpose instead of just throwing it out. That way you really can't tell the yellow because of the black and dark glitters in it. So just a thought. Don't throw it away just because it's turning yellow. Alright, let's get started. Now that I have rambled for 20 minutes about the different molds and epoxies, we're going to get started. I'm going to bring over, I have these trays. They actually came in a set. It has a rack and stuff too. I like to put my molds on these to pour, only because I'm usually doing way more than one thing at a time. And since these aren't fast set, you don't want to mess with them or touch them or knock them over or bump anything into them for like 12 to 18 hours for the most part, and then they're usually cured 24 hours later. So whatever I pour today, I'm not going to touch until at least tomorrow about the same time I poured it. Since we're closed tomorrow, I'll check them on Monday when I get to the store. But I like to put them on a tray, so that way I'm like, all right, cool, done with molding. I can go set them on a counter somewhere that's level, and they can finish curing, and I don't have to worry about not having a space to work. So that's why you see mine on a tray. Okay, this guy's probably gonna take a couple of different rounds because this is not gonna fill it up. I will give you a word of warning when you're using the epoxy mixer like I'm fixing to use. You'll see my cup is yellow kind of from here up. I typically will not do any more than 60 mLs in here, which is 30 of part A and 30 of part B, because when it is tilted like this and it's spinning, you get it too full, your epoxy is just going to start pouring on your table. So I will not do more than 60 in a mixer like this. If I was hand mixing it, you could go all the way up to the 100, but I'm not going to, since I'm going to use my mixer. Let's see. I'm going to try this one today, or for right now anyway. I may try or may use all of them, but I'm going to do this one for the first one. And this one looks like it leaked a little bit, so let me grab my gloves. Make sure you have gloves. Make sure you have your protective gear on. I know people are probably going to fuss and go, wear your mask, but I really don't have a problem with them. I don't use epoxies if they have that super strong smell, because quite frankly, I don't like them and I will have a headache within a few minutes. So, I know that Nola's, it doesn't have a super strong smell because Rachel herself, the owner of Nola's, can't handle them. And Glitter Guy has also made theirs a very low odor. And right now I can't smell anything and I just opened theirs. Dr. Crafty does have a little bit of a smell, but nothing like a lot of the other formulas I've tried. So, and y'all can kind of watch right quick and then do yours after if you'd like. Don't mix up your lids, because if you accidentally put the lid from part A onto part B and there's any epoxy in there and you mix it with the epoxy here, you're going to get that chemical reaction and it's going to cure. And then you're kind of SOL. You've cured your lid onto your epoxy. This is why I did this without gloves a second ago, because I can't get a grip with these gloves on. Alright. There we go. Okay, so that one is that one. Let's see. And the glitter guy one says work time is 45 minutes, tack time is 8 hours, dry time is 24 hours, and total cure is 3 days. So, which is pretty typical. Measure equal parts, that's what I thought. Okay. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour 30 mLs of part B, and you just want to do even of both. So we're going to start with 30 mLs of part B. There we go. The lid back on that one. And 30 mLs of part A. You will find that one is going to be thicker than the other. That again is typical. The epoxy and the hardener are two different viscosities, which is thicknesses. When I'm getting close to that 60 mark, you'll see me kind of start to back off my pour. There we go. Okay, so for this little guy here is the mixer. So when you put this in here, you drop it in, and that's the like agitator. So we're gonna put it in here. It always is gonna make you nervous, and my table is not flat. Okay. Where's my, oh, this one's on the back. Okay. Well guys, y'all may see me hold this for a minute because Alexa, start a timer for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Michelle. 5 minutes.
Morning,
starting
Alexa.
now.
The only bad thing about this folding table is that it has like a hump in the middle, and so it doesn't want to stay flat. You do want to try to have as flat of a surface as you can when you're pouring these, so that way your molds are flat and even. Mine is not in here. So we're gonna let this mix up, and you can see how it's kind of mixing it together. It is a little thick, and so it's kind of like, don't want to move right now. But it's still agitating. You can see that it's mixing. If you notice that it's not moving at all, you can, with a gloved hand, you can take and kind of move that agitator to kind of get it a little more, get it moving a little more. This one doesn't say a mix time that I read. Measure, combine, mix thoroughly. Yeah, it just says mix thoroughly. With all my regular epoxies, I mix for 5 minutes. And you can see, like right now you can see, I don't know if y'all can see this in the camera, it's still kind of stringy. And so whenever it's got that like stringy look to it, that means the two parts aren't mixed well together yet. And it'll get clear whenever the two parts are evenly mixed together. Turn it kind of with the lean of the table. And since it's going to require more than one cup of epoxy in here, I'm going to have that one. It's going to get mixed. I'm going to mix another one, and then I'll probably mix a third one for this because it's kind of a larger mold. And then I'll pour it in all at one time, because if I pour in this one and then I wait the 5 minutes for another one, and then I pour that in and I wait the 5 minutes, all of the colors that I poured in are all going to start to settle in the places I don't want them to settle in. And so you don't want to do that where you're pouring and then waiting and then pouring and then waiting, because you're like, if I poured my blue first and I just poured it here, well, gravity's gonna settle that, and so my blue's gonna run over to the edges and it's gonna start just running all the way down into that outside curve, and we don't want that. Alexa, how much time's left on my timer?
You have 1 minute and 10 seconds left on your 5-minute timer.
Okay, that should be about right, because that one's starting to get clear. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix up my next cup of this. Again, 30 and 30. Ooh, where is... Okay, there's my 30. I wish these markings were easier to see. But they're just not. That way, while I'm dividing that one out, which I don't know. We'll see. See what I'm going to divide out on that one. I don't really need a whole lot of white, so I probably will put some white. Alexa, stop. In one of these cups. Alright, so I'm going to kind of just pull this out. Okay, you can see it does have a little bit of stringiness going on. Kind of give it a mix. I'm going to take it, I'm going to wipe off as much of this one as I can onto my cup, off of here. If you're doing this with a popsicle stick, just leave your popsicle stick in this cup, grab you a new popsicle stick to mix your next container. But since I have to have this agitator to mix my next one, I'm scraping as much of this mix off as I can. But since it should be evenly mixed, it's not going to hurt to put this one in here and get this one started going. Okay, Alexa, start a timer for 5 minutes.
5 minutes, starting now.
Okay. So now while that one's going, I'm going to prepare this first one, okay? I've got epoxy on my fingers from dealing with that stir stick, and I don't want epoxy all over my cups, so try not to touch it. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to take, let's see, where's my mLs? I think I'm going to pour like 20 mLs into this one from here. Alright, so we're going to leave the other 40 in here. Still a little cloudy looking. I'm going to grab some popsicle sticks. Doesn't want to mix all that great. Okay, that looks clearer. I'll give this one a mix as well. I haven't worked with this one, so this is my first time working with this one. Normally I deal with the Dr. Crafty. Okay, So with this one here, I'm going to use this one as my white. So I'm going to use this Call Me Captain. And I'm going to put some of that in here. Let's turn this around. Okay. And then I'm going to mix this up. And then I'm going to leave it sitting here while we wait on our other ones. And I always say add glitter and then see what you think about the thickness, how it looks. See if it looks too thin. Because you can always add a little more glitter, but you don't want to have to keep adding epoxy and adding epoxy, because then you have like 50 mLs of epoxy that you don't need. So that looks pretty good to me. You can still see, like you can see kind of sort of through it, but not bad. And as it's thick, when it's thick, you're not going to be able to see that much through it at all. Okay. Now, I don't like to put glitter in these cups, only because it makes it a little bit harder to clean out. If that's all you have, that's fine. It's not going to be a huge deal. I did it for probably a year before I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, just because it is a little harder to clean out. So I'm going to pour this into one of these bigger plastic cups that I have. And I'm going to put my glitter in here with this. Let's see. I think I'm going to do the Just Keep Swimming in this one, because I don't want to have a whole bunch of the dark blue. I want more of the like sand color and the light blue than I do the dark blue. Just going to mix that in. And I know as tumbler makers were freaking out because I've got epoxy sitting here. And it's just sitting here. And with the fast set, like, you've got like 10, 15 minutes maybe to get it on your cup. These you have like a 45-minute window, so you can leave it setting a little longer. Alexa, how much time's left on my timer?
You have 40 seconds left on your 5-minute timer.
Perfect. Okay. So I don't use another cup right this second. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour 30 mLs of each into this one, and we're going to put this one in next. Probably won't need, Alexa, stop. I may not need this one, but we're gonna see. If not, I'll just move on to the next project. If I do, it's already mixed, and I can mix whatever glitter I need to finish off this mold. Sis, I know you have to go before too long. I'm sorry we didn't get very far, but I was just trying to get all of the pointers out that I needed to about mixing epoxy and molds. Oh, come back. Don't drop all the way down my table here. Thank you. Yeah, that looks good. Much better. Much better. I'm going to try to pour about half into this one. Actually, no. I'm going to go ahead and pour this whole thing into this one, and I'm going to pour that one into another cup I'm going to use this one for my light blue and the other one for the sand. Do that right there. Okay. So I'm going to put a light blue in here. A little more glitter in it this time because that is a lot of epoxy. Mix this up. Oh, darn it. I don't think I started another timer. Alexa, start a timer for 3 minutes.
3 minutes, starting now.
We'll check it in 3 minutes and see what it looks like. I forgot to start it whenever I put that one in. And you just want to make sure that your glitter is mixed all the way to the bottom. So I kind of keep looking at this side of my cup. I'm on till noon. Oh, okay, cool. Cool. We'll definitely have this one poured before noon, so that's awesome. Grab another cup. And you don't have to have like a big mold like this to do this in. You could do it with even those smaller, regular, round coaster molds that I showed you earlier. You could even do this with a jar because it's all about like how you pour. It's going to be a little more difficult with a jar because you'd have to pour it all in at once, but what you could do is like you could start at the top with some white and then like pour your white all in and then pour your gray or your sand in and then your light blue and then finish it off with your dark blue. So then you'd have a jar from top to bottom that looks like the ocean. So that is an option. Carefully grab a drink right quick. Alexa, how much time's left on my timer?
You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left on your 3-minute timer.
Yeah, we should be good. After that goes off, we should be good. And then I'll put that in here. We'll mix in our sand. And then we'll get pouring. But don't let it intimidate you. Practically all mold pourings are the same. Just depending on whatever design you want to pour is what you would change. But this is typically one of the harder ones to pour when you're trying to do multiple colors. So at least I can show you all this. And with the basics of this, if you just wanted to do one color, like literally you just pour it in, mix another batch, pour that on top until it's full. If you wanted to do 2 colors, you could pour one on the one side and one on the other and have them meet in the middle. Then you could just kind of blend them with your popsicle stick. It's really endless amounts of things you can do. One other thing I did want to show y'all today, we should have time. I'm going to do a UV resin mold. I'm going to do UV resin in this little mold. I'm going to put together our straw topper. I'm going to show y'all the painting. And then if I can get to it and it's not super late. Alexa, stop. I don't know if y'all seen like their raindrop effects that people are doing on molds and things. But basically you make a design on your mold with UV resin and then you put a mica powder over it. You brush a mica powder over it and then you put a epoxy coat on top of that. It makes this really cool like water drop effect. It's really neat. Alright, let's see what we look like here. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. this off. Don't forget, if you do get a mixer like this, don't forget to clean it off, because this is not silicone, this is metal. And if epoxy cures to that, it's just cured on it. That's it. That's all there is to it. There is no getting it off of there. Alright, let me pour this into here. And I gotta turn that mixer off. And this right here, like y'all can see, we've mixed a lot of epoxy. This is why molds or things made from molds aren't cheap when you buy them or sell them. People want to always undercut you because they're like, it's just, you just used a mold. Yeah, but it takes a lot of epoxy for these molds. I mean, this is 3 rounds of 60 ml, so 180 mLs of epoxy. Like literally, this is a brand new bottle when I opened it, and you can see, I mean, it's down to here already. So don't undersell yourself when you're doing things like this, because it does take a lot of epoxy, and epoxy is not cheap. Okay, so we're gonna pour in our glitter. And then we'll get it mixed in. And then we will get pouring. You can kind of see how it's slowly mixing down the bottom. You just want to make sure it's all the way mixed in. And also, as you can see, like in the blues, some of your glitter is going to settle as it cures. But that's also another reason why molds are poured upside down, so that way as things kind of settle, you're still going to have the settling on the top side, the pretty side of your mold, so that the back's not perfect. It's the back. It's okay. Alright, so now we've got them here. Let me see how we're looking on all of these. We're still looking okay. I don't think we need to add any more. No. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my white. You do have to be kind of quick with this, because you don't want your colors all flowing, like I said earlier. You don't want them mixing. So what we're going to do is you're going to just kind of start on this edge where you want your white to be, and you're going to pour in your white. That's going to start filling in, so you can see how it's running. So you're going to go ahead and grab your next color, and you're going to get it going to where it's combating that pour, okay? Now you don't want to use all of it, because we're going to have to come back and use some more. But before that starts flowing in all the way down to the bottom, you're going to want to start your next color. Okay, because we just want to stop the flow of it filling up the bottom. So now this is where we want to start our blue at the bottom here, so it can meet the light blue. There we go. Now let them kind of intertwine, mix together. I kind of take, because I want them to kind of mix together. I don't want them to just, I don't want a stark line like this, okay? So I'm going to kind of take my stir sticks, and I'm going to kind of blend them together just a little bit. Same thing here. Ooh, we dropped some sand in the ocean. Whatever, it's okay. Now, you go back and you start with your first color again. A little bit in here, because it's going to start pushing against our sand, which is understandable. It's okay. Then you go back to your sand color, and and let it push back against that white. Light blue color. Let it push back against that sand. And then your dark blue, and let it push back against that light blue. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour all of my dark blue in here because I'm at the end of it anyway, so it's okay. But you want to fill up your mold all the way to the end. So, or all the way to the top, not the end, all the way to the top. Okay, so that one. And then we're going to come back with this one. I'm going to have a little more, I think, sand color left probably. But I'm just going to take and kind of blend those together. I don't want a stark line in my ocean. Okay. Come back up here and see if I can get this sand to push back against this light blue. Give it a swirl. And there's no rhyme or reason, like literally, I'm just swirling. That is it. I'm just swirling it in. And then we're going to go back in with our white, which our mold's pretty much to the top. So instead of pouring more of my white in, I'm just going to blend it in right here, okay? All right. So now what you can see is, well, hopefully y'all can see it in the camera, but you can see how some of the bubbles are starting to rise. That's what you kind of want. I will let this mold set for about 5 minutes. Hey, Teresa. Just watching. Okay, not a problem. I know that you've done a lot of molds, so some of this might be new, some of it might not be new to you. But I know you've done a lot of mold pours. But as y'all can see, some of these bigger bubbles are popping up. I'll let it set for about 5 minutes. And then what I'll do is I'll come in and I'll just spritz it with alcohol, straight 91% alcohol. And that'll help pop the bubbles that are rising to the top to where you don't have a really bubbly back. But, I mean, that is pretty much what it is. I'm going to try to pick up this tray so y'all can see. I've got it filled to the top. You can see it's kind of liquidy and moving. That's exactly why I put it on a tray, because I want to be able to move this without pouring it out anywhere. So, alright, let me kind of move some of this off of here and kind of move this to this top side. The thing I like about that mold is it's a good thick mold. The only thing I don't like is that my table is not level. You know what, I'm gonna try to grab this pair of scissors and see if I can put it under my tray. And I can tell that it's not level because you can see my mold, my epoxy's wanting to go all to this side of my mold, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to stay, that's too much. I want it to stay level. Alright, let's try that. I think that looks a little more level. Okay. Alright, so that's kind of how you do a basic mold pour. Like I said, I use 4 different colors. You don't have to use 4 different colors. You could pour it all the same color. It doesn't really matter. But kind of for the beachy kind of theme, ocean theme, that's kind of what you wanted to do, is like have your like foam of your water washing up on your sand, then your light blue, and then your like deep sea dark blue. And you can see those bubbles rising. See how it's getting like more white on the top? Those are all the air bubbles coming up out of that epoxy. You want that to happen. Let's see what mold I have that I can pour these in, because it's not going to be enough for that jar. But I do not want to waste this. You know what? I think let's see if this will fill up my. This is a little Mario like cube, the one that's got the question mark on it. This is the straw topper of that. Let's see if this will fill this up. It's gold, or goldish. So I'm just going to take and I'm just going to pour it around. With your molds also, you don't want to pour too fast if you have a lot of cavities to get this epoxy in, because if you do, it can't fill them all in, and so it's going to cause a lot of air bubbles. So just kind of pour it a little slow, pay attention to where you're pouring, and just work it all the way around. Scrape this, we might be able to get just enough. I'm a little shy, but what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to pour in this white on top of here. Alright, now with these, with this built-in straw topper, you just want to make sure that you don't get your epoxy over the top of that, because if you do, then you're going to actually close in the hole that it builds for you for your straw to come through. So you want to go up to it, but not over it. Okay. Alright, perfect. I hate wasting epoxy, so I'm glad we were able to get that filled in. So we're going to let that kind of set. I'm going to take it, I'm going to kind of squish it and turn it just to see if I can get that epoxy to settle into all of those little designs in here. You don't want to squish it, like I'm not squishing it all together, but just a little squeeze in around. Okay, so now we're going to let that set, get the air bubbles coming to the top. Let's see, we've got a little bit more left. Not much, not much, not much. Let's see, I don't want to do that mold because that's the one that I'm going to do the UV on, so I don't want to pour it into that. We can pour it into this. We'll pour it into the side piece of this one. I already have one of these poured and cured, so y'all don't really need to see me pouring this, but it's the same thing that we just did. And I just kind of take, for these smaller ones like this, as you can see, I'm just taking my popsicle stick and I'm kind of filling it off my popsicle stick instead of trying to pour it into a smaller space. And this one's not too terribly small, but with that indent of the, like the butterfly piece, I just don't want it to be like a whole mess inside of there. As you can see, I don't like wasting epoxy. I'm going to fill this in, and then I'm going to put the yellow or the white on top of it, and then I will see what we might have left. And depending on what we have left in a second that we might mix, then I may even put that on here. there's some. There's enough to not waste. So after seeing that first one that I did, how are y'all feeling? Do you have questions on that one? You have anything you want to ask me about doing molds? Any specific mold question? How are y'all feeling? Let me know. Think you got it? Think you can do it? I know y'all can do it. I have a multicolored butterfly. Multicolored butterfly spacer here. A connector, technically. Alright. I think I've got all that I'm going to be able to get out of these. I'm not going to use these same colors again, so I'm throwing those cups away. Alright. Good so far. Perfect. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to take these gloves off. I don't want to get epoxy all over everything I'm touching. I'm fixing to grab my alcohol and we're going to spritz these. Like I said, this is just straight out of the bottle. Can you mix paint with your epoxy? You can. Very small amounts. Like just start with like a drop. Because if you get too much paint in your epoxy, you're going to actually have a different chemical reaction happen. And you're going to have your epoxy flash cure on you. And you don't want that. So you just want to start with a drop, like literally a drop of paint. Mix it in. If it's still too opaque, still too thin, too see-through, not the right color, whatever, do one more drop. But don't do more than that. Okay, can y'all see that when I spray that, did y'all see all those bubbles just go, pshh, they all disappeared. Don't overdo your epoxy or your alcohol either. Because if you spray too much alcohol, you can cause the opposite action. And you can actually make it have divots in your epoxy because alcohol actually will repel epoxy. But the alcohol in this type, since these take a lot longer to cure, the alcohol will dissipate before this cures, so you don't really have that, but you can still put too much alcohol on there, so still beware of how much alcohol you're spraying. So don't overdo it, but just enough to pop those bubbles. Alright, so here's what we have. We've got our tray, we've got our straw topper, and we've got our butterfly. So I'm going to take these, and I'm going to put these back here on this desk. That is hopefully a little more level. Maybe, maybe not. Let's see. I'm going to put this underneath here. Ha! That worked. Okay. Alright. So that way we've got those back there curing and we can go to our next thing. Alright, so what I'm going to do right quick is I'm going to clean out my dills that I just mixed epoxy in. I'm going to put on another set of gloves because that is uncured but mixed epoxy. And if you get that on your hands, it can actually give you a chemical burn. So always make sure you have protective gear on when you're messing with epoxy. And I know what I'm fixing to do, a lot of people, they're like, that's just a waste, just let it cure. Whenever I try to let my epoxy cure in my silicone jars, I never can get it out. So I like to clean them. I'm going to have to go get me some more rags, but I like to clean them now before it starts curing. I don't know. I'm like, don't fuss at me for how I do it. That's how I do it. If you want to do it differently, then do it your way. But this is how I do it. I always start by cleaning off my little metal dude here. And I clean off the stick part on the top, and then I clean off the little thing on the bottom, and I just go around and make sure I've got it all off. If you're using a popsicle stick to mix yours, you don't have to worry about this. Just throw it in the trash like I did my cups, or my popsicle sticks I use with my cups. Okay, so once you got all of that off of there, just kind of set that to the side, let it dry. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and yes, I know I just wiped that off, but we have our gloves on, so we're okay. I'm going to take this, I kind of unfold it, and then I kind of like stuff it down in there, and then I'm going to take and just kind of wipe out as much of that epoxy as I can. Okay, and then I'm going to fold this over. If you are messy, if you think you might get it on your clothes, make sure you wear an apron, because this stuff, once it cures in your clothes, it's cured on your clothes. It's not coming off. So I just do that a couple of times, and then as you can see, I take and I just kind of fold it, and then I completely wipe out my silicone cup. Usually it just takes me one wipe per cup, because I typically get as much of that epoxy out as I can, as y'all saw, when I'm putting it into my cups to mix. Woo. There is a lot of liquid at the bottom of this jar. Holy moly. Okay. Set that one there. Wow. Alright. Don't forget to clean your jars out, your mixing jars out. If you think you're gonna forget, or if you always forget, you might want to just invest in some larger plastic ones that don't cost very much, that you could mix them in and toss them. Just kind of up to you, but I like these, and I just try my best to remember to rinse them out. Don't get me wrong, I've had to throw some in the trash because I didn't remember. Golly, there is a lot of juice in this container of Clorox wipes. I'm getting it everywhere. Okay, I'm gonna get me a paper towel, or 2 or 3. And we're just gonna dry them off. I'm gonna dry up my mess that I got right here first. Golly. Kind of made a mess everywhere. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do next, I think we're gonna do this little one that I brought for UV resin, to show y'all some UV resin with molds. Move that out of the way. But of course, if there's something y'all want to know, ask me, and I don't mind going over it at all. Dry off my little mixer dude here. If I want to have glitter and shapes, do you mix them together? Yes. Yes, you can, unless you want to pour them separately. If you want to have your shapes in a specific spot, then you could put those down first and then pour your glitter over it, or you could mix them together. If you're wanting, which I know, Mom, I think you're wanting your anchors to kind of be mixed in with your glitter, so I would definitely recommend just mixing them all in your mix. Like when I put mine in my cups and mix the glitter in, I would go ahead and mix your glitter and mix your anchors all at the same time. But if you're wanting, I'll show you an example actually. If you're wanting your shapes to be in an exact spot, put those on your mold first. So hopefully y'all can see this guy. But can you see my Christmas light bulbs I put on the background? Those I wanted in specific spots. And so what I did is I put those down on my mold, and then I poured my green glitter over the top. So you can kind of see, hopefully, trying to get it to where y'all can see without a glare on it. Let's see if that helps. Kind of there. There we go. So those light bulbs are in a specific place because I wanted them to be the right direction first of all. I wanted them to show in a certain spot to like look like I had like lights on my Christmas tree. So what I did is that mold, just like the one I did there, I have another one, let me grab it. Sorry for the rustling. What I did is like I took my shapes, let me grab a shape, maybe, let me see, are my shapes in here or are my shapes in the hall? My shapes are in the hall, hold on one sec. Yes, I can see that. Okay, cool. So, like say, I wanted, these are little lightning bolts. Whoa! And they poured out way too fast. Anyway, say I wanted these little lightning bolts to be in exact spots. What I would do is I would take and I would place them exactly where I wanted them on my mold. Come on. Well, not more than one at a time, but anyway, I would take it, I would place them literally on my mold exactly where I wanted them, and then after I get them placed where I wanted them, then I would pour my glitter mixture over it. When you're doing this way, since there's no epoxy on the other side of these, you would want to pour just a thin coat of clear epoxy. After you take it out of the mold, you would want to just pour a thin layer of clear epoxy over the top. And if you're using, if you're not using it for food, then you could just do a thin UV resin layer over the top too. So it just kind of depends, because you can see that those aren't going anywhere. They typically stick to your silicone molds. So you could place whatever shape you wanted if you wanted it, or if you want them all mixed together, mix it all together and then just pour it all in. Hopefully that helps. Did that help you, Mama? Somebody dropped out. We only have two. I'm guessing probably Teresa dropped out. Yes, it did. Okay, cool. Good, good, good. Okay. Actually, before we do the UV resin, I'm gonna show y'all how to do the paint in these other ones. Ugh, there we go. All right. And clean up my mess because lightning bolts wanted to strike my table today. They didn't want to stay in the lid. I'm sorry for my voice, y'all. It is kind of all over the place. I really hope this 2-day thing is gone by Monday. Maybe it'll just be today and tomorrow. I know that's kind of a crappy weekend to have, but I gotta work. RJ's got appointments. I gotta take my dog to get her stitches out of her leg Monday. Hopefully get that cone off of her head. Poor baby. She's so sick of that cone. For those of you that are watching the replay, that don't know what happened. She was really jumpy at the groomers this last time, and when they were trying to do one of her legs, she like was all jumping all over the place, and they nicked her right at the bend of her leg. So they took her, and she had to get 2 little stitches in her leg, and she's got a cone on so she doesn't mess with them. She's ready for the cone to be off, and so are we. Poor thing. We're having to hold her food bowl and water bowl so she can eat and lift them up, and she's kind of over it. Alright. So, I'm going to paint these. I'll show you how to put that one together. I'm hoping y'all can see these little divots in these guys. But you can kind of see they've got like indentions and holes where it like goes in so you can put details in them. There's a couple of different ways that you can fill these. So this is like a paint dauber. This one is detail dauber is what they call them at Resin Rockers. This one's from Resin Rockers. I love Resin Rockers. I love their products. They are the ones that actually sells the mold and the soft resin that I make my own snow globe stoppers from. That came from them. This came from them. And it specifically is made for daubing paint in. It even tells you like how to use it. Dip sponge in the acrylic paint, gently dab to fill in the textured details. Wipe the surface gently with a cloth, let dry for 10 to 15 minutes. Wipe remaining paint with rubbing alcohol to clean as needed. So you can use something like this if you have a paint dauber. If not, you can use, some people use like a scraper, like a squeegee. So they'll put a little bit of paint and just scrape it in and then wipe it off the top. If you have, which those of you that are getting my kit, y'all will be getting, oh, we have a stray light bulb still. Oh, 2. Y'all will be getting some of these in your kit. Open these so I can show y'all. These would also work. These are from Amazon as well. These are like little daubers. We're going to be using them for alcohol, ink, and micas on our September kit. So those would work too. Paintbrush. Oh, let me grab the acrylic paint I'm going to use. I'm going to use purple because why not? Kind of a deep purple so that way it'll show up. But I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that people do these. I usually do like a dauber method or a scrape method. You can also, if your mold has large details, you can actually do it with mica powder also. Put your mica powder on and then pour your epoxy over it. Okay, fine. We're just gonna open this guy up. I wonder if my little dauber, it's gonna fit in there. Here we go. I'll grab one of these to put some paint in. It's gonna take a whole lot. It's not gonna pour out a whole lot, but okay, so we're gonna do the little dauber method. So you just get your paint on your dauber and leave it down. And you literally just daub in your paint. I know it looks kind of like a mess, and it is for a minute. Make sure you get your paint thick enough to get down all the way down to those divots. Do the dauber method, and then I'll see if I can get I'll show the scraping method. Alright, so paper towel. So what you want to do is, like, when you wipe off your excess off the top, you just want to wipe off the top. You don't want to dig down deep, because then you wipe out what you just put in, right? So I'm going to get it in my hand, and you just want to go over the top. Just those parts that are sticking up is what you want to wipe off, okay? Oh, no. Paper towel is coming off inside. Don't do that. Okay. Get wiped off where my fingers were, so hold it. Okay. Wipe off the outside if you got any on the outside rim. That gets off the majority of it. Now you can still see some of the paint has dried already on my raised parts. That's what she said. After 10 to 15 minutes, you want to let your paint completely dry. And then after 10 or 15 minutes, you can take like a alcohol wipe, or you can put a little bit of alcohol on a paper towel and just carefully clean off those raised divots that didn't come off in this process. And then you're good to go. Just let it completely dry and you're fine. You can put it together and all after that. Some people I have seen just do it, scrape it across. Let's see. There we go. So, like, some people I have seen, and of course I don't want to pour it on top of my mold because my mold is so oddly shaped. I'm just going to get a little bit on here and see if I can get this point across. So some people literally take, like, kind of like a screen paint, and they just, like, literally just fill the holes. Now, as you can see, I'm not a huge fan of this method, and this is why I went to the dauber. Because at the beginning, you have puddles of paint, and at the end, you have no paint. I'm not a fan of this. I recommend a foam brush or foam dauber, using that and getting it down in those holes. So see, with that same amount of paint, now it's down in all the holes. Okay, that's the method I like to use. If you have super big ones, you can actually use paint pens or paint markers. They have some paint markers that are really fine detailing. Some people get all kinds of fancy and use those really, like, thin needlepoint little bottles, and they're like really, really detailing. That's cool if you want to do that. I ain't got time for that. My life is a mess, so I'm not doing that. I recommend the dauber method. That's how I get mine. If they are large, I do have paint pens, but I'm not trying to be detailed with them. I'm just painting it, and then I'm wiping off the top like I do right here. And I go. Okay? So, dadgummit. I keep pulling my paper towel off. Let me do this other side. We'll clean up the other side. And I'm going to show you how to put these together. But, does anybody have a question on filling the holes with paint? No? Okay. Let me get this cleaned up, and then we will move to the next round of stuff. I'm going to do the putting together of this other butterfly mold that I just did. After I get this cleaned up. And then we'll move to the UV resin one, and then actually I think after the UV resin one, I think we'll be good for today. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. Love y'all, have to go. Love you too, sis. Have fun. I'll talk to you after a while. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, always ask me. I don't mind. But pouring the molds is, like I said, it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. just the shape of the mold changes. And you just do whatever color you want to do. I don't have any water in here. Let me go get some water and I'll be right back. Take one of these to get my water in. Woo. Can't wait to show you what I've done. Yay! Yes, I want to see it. If y'all always, whatever y'all do, I want to see. I want to see what y'all do. So please post. Alright, we're going to move this back here. So that way it is out of the way. I'm going to move this one over here to let it dry. And we can wipe off the tops. Okay. So for this one, okay, so like I said, I know it seems super intimidating, but it's really not. Your pieces just have to fit with your piece you're putting together with it. So, as you can see, that's how our piece is going to line up because that's how it fits the front and back pieces, okay? So you're literally just going to take and you're going to put these two together just like this. Well, three technically. Just like this. Like, all you have to do is just make sure that it fits the way it should fit. Just make sure that it lines up. And it's not going to go all the way to the center because remember, you have to have that opening for your straw to go through, okay? So, it's not going to go all the way to the center. Wipe off my hand. I don't want to have purple paint on everything. As much as I love purple, I don't want it everywhere. Alright, we're going to hang that over there. Okay. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can use the 3-in-1 advanced craft glue that I like to use on a lot of things. Let it set. You can use E6000. E6000 is a good glue, don't get me wrong, but I hate the way it smells. If it is going to be able to get light through it, you can use UV resin, but just make sure that it's where light is going to be able to penetrate through. I think with this one, because I did this one so transparent, I think I can use UV resin on this one and it'd be totally fine. If on the green one, I will use my 3-in-1 advanced craft glue because light's not going to go through that green. But for this one, I am going to use my UV resin to put it together. Let me grab my UV lamp. For UV resin on these, oh, she sent me a message. Let me see. Oh, I forgot. It's on my magnetic charging stand. All right, let's see. Oh, yay! Yay, sis, good job. Nell sent me a picture of what she did. I'm gonna show y'all. There's what sis worked on while we were in class. So cool. I can't wait to see them when you're done. Sweet. Awesome, awesome. All right, so for this, what you're gonna do is I like to start with them kind of together where they're gonna be. Let's see, I'm gonna move it over here actually. See if I can get them mostly lined up. Okay, and on my silicone mat, they won't move too terribly much. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put a little bit of UV resin. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to go all the way to the edge with my UV resin, because if I do that and then I put the topper on, it's going to smush it out the side. So much like we do whenever we're doing doming or when we're doing acrylic blanks, you want to put your UV resin in the center, and then you're going to let it work its way out. It helps if I put UV resin on both sides. Through. Put some on there. There we go. Put my lid back on that because I don't want to cure my lid or my topper. And then you're just going to carefully put this down on here. Get it into place. Darn it. Slid. Alright. Have a little bit of overspill because it slid on me, but it will be okay. Oh, golly. Stop that, Michelle. Sorry if my head is in the way. Okay. Alright, so let me wipe this off my hand because I don't want UV resin cured on my hand. Alright, so I've got it in place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put my light over it. We're going to cure it. There it is. Okay. So we're just going to cure that for a couple of minutes. Typically you want to start on a UV resin just for like 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. Some resins are a faster cure than that, like the resin rockers, the hard type that you use for molds. It does cure really nicely in 60 seconds, which is really nice about that. And I really do love their resin. It's just a little expensive, so I can't always get that one. But I do like the glitter guy one. Typically 120 seconds and I'm cured with it. I don't have problems with that one. The CC DIY, Counterculture DIY, that one's a pretty good UV resin as well. And then I have some from Mr. Nola's. I have not used it. They sent it to me in a kit that me and Linnell just did, but we didn't use UV resin. We used a different method of adhering our stuff on, so I didn't get a chance to use that one. But I like my Nola's stuff, so I'm sure that Nola's UV resin is just as good. I'm going to kind of turn this to the side. Let that light hit all sides. And then once this is set for about a minute or two, and make sure it's not sticky, I'll turn it to the other side. And after this, we're going to move on to this one and cure it with our UV resin. Just so y'all can see how to do some UV resin ones. I may see if some of these might be big enough for us to put some mica on. So y'all can see how to use micas in molds. We can do that. We can definitely do that. Alright, let's turn it to the side now. Didn't get it smushed down all the way on the bottom, but it's okay. It will be okay. So once this cures, we're gonna adhere this back side onto it, and then you can see how it goes onto a straw. Mama, I know you're still in here hanging out with me. Did you have any questions about the molds so far? Or did I answer everything that you needed? Let me know. Yep, and y'all can see where I didn't push it down as hard as I needed to on the bottom because it kept sliding. Got this stupid gap, but it's okay. I can take and put a little UV resin in that gap and fill it in that way. It'll be okay. Oof, I did not realize I got some going down the side. Let me grab my knife. Hold on. See if I can get this cut out of here before it cures even more. There we go. I didn't realize I had UV resin drip down the side of this opening right here, so just cutting it out to get it out of there before I cure this other side here. There we go. Okay, so let's turn this off for a second. Move that out of the way. And then we will get a little more UV resin on here. We'll put our other side on. We're gonna hope that my mess up, that where it slid, didn't make a big mess and my straw not fit. It kind of looks like it went into the center, but we're gonna see what happens. It'll be okay. Alright, so we're gonna fit this one on top of here. Make sure I get that pushed down a little bit more this time. And then put our light back on. Cure that for a couple minutes. Let's see. Where's my micas? In here. Where did I put them? There they are. There they all. That one, get that one. See if we can get some Q-tips maybe to work for these. Oh, darn it. I didn't get it pushed down enough again. So don't pull a Michelle. Make sure it's pushed down all the way. It'll be okay. I'm just turning it different ways, like I had it flat and then I'm turning it up and over and just making sure that the light gets to all pieces. to show you how to put this on a straw. Alright, so I don't feel any more sticky. So we're going to turn this off. We're going to move this over for a second. But whenever you do that, it makes the hole so that way it just goes right on your cup. So you got a straw topper on your cup. Uh-oh. I got sticky on my cups. What I got on my cup? I think it is from a while ago when I grabbed a drink when I had my gloves on. We're gonna wipe that off. But, so that's what you have. It's got a little straw topper. So just like on the Mario one piece one that I did, whenever we pull that out, that hole in the center, or that silicone mold where it's got the centerpiece, that automatically creates that piece for us, so you don't have to put it together. It comes out all as one piece, and you're able to just put it on your cup. So, but that's how those are put together. Alright, so now we're going to move on to using UV resin in a mold. And like I said at the beginning, UV resin in molds, they're good, it's quick. Make sure you're not using it for anything at all that you would be using food on. UV resin is not food safe, so do not use it on anything you're going to use food on. Don't put it on a plate. Don't make a cookie tray out of it or anything like that. Anything that you're going to put food on, do not use UV resin, okay? Yes, it's quick, but quick and not safe is not good. Please be safe when you're using resins. Well, be safe when you're doing everything. Think of it as if you were getting this, would you want it to be safe or just quick and not care about safety? I care about safety, okay? I was just watching you, so I would not get confused. I'll bring the molds. I know, epoxy. I would need for each one. Okay, that's fine, Mama. That is totally fine. Alright, so for this one, I may need to move this mat so y'all can see. Let's see how we get without this one, without the mat. Yeah, I think y'all can see a little better without that mat on it. Okay. So with this one, what we're going to do, we're going to have some fun with some micas and UV resin. So some of these raised parts, oh yay, it came with a brush. Sweet, I forgot there was a brush in here. Some of these raised parts, I'm going to put mica powder on. Let me see which one I want to use today. Maybe that one's pretty. This is not bad. I like that one too. Okay. So I'm going to put mica powder on these. Now, mica powder is really pretty to put on molds to kind of give them accents and details and things like that too. So, since it came with a brush, I'm going to use the brush. If it doesn't come with a brush, I can use the Q-tips, and I'll probably go ahead and show y'all with the Q-tips too, just to show y'all how you can do it. But what you want to do is you just want to go and gently brush on your mica. Try not to have too much mica on your brush when you do this, because you don't want it to get all down in the other part of your mold. And then it's where you don't want it to be, okay? So we're just going to gently brush our mica in. Mine's getting kind of in the other parts of the mold where the brush bristles are just kind of flaring out, but some of it you're just not going to be able to control, because mica is a powder, and powders tend to go just wherever they want to go anyway. But if you can get the majority of it where it should be, you're okay. I'm not trying to get so picky that I'm gonna go back in here with a Q-tip with alcohol and clean all that off. If it were a bigger mold, maybe. If it was a mold that you really got a bunch of it in, or you really need the details to be clear, I might go in and clean that off. But on these, it's not a huge deal, so I'm not worried about it. So that was where I used the brush. This one we're gonna try the Q-tip on here because it's got a bigger kind of area. So we're just gonna use a Q-tip. Gonna get that in here. And they're essentially the same thing, but I know not everybody has a mica brush, and micas don't always come with brushes. So you don't always have to have the fancy tools to make it work. I blow out some of those chunks because I was kind of getting some bigger chunks that kind of came off my Q-tip in there. So I think we do have a little more control with the brush than the Q-tip just because the Q-tip's so wide, but they both got the job done. Yeah, this one still has a little thingy on it. There we go. Wipe off that mica powder. And do this one. Now these are chameleon micas. And with the chameleon mica, typically you want to do a darker resin behind them because that's what really helps that color shift. Now you can do a white mica behind them or white epoxy resin behind them, don't get me wrong, but they're just going to be a lighter version of the chameleon shift. It's not going to be a deep chameleon shift. This one, we started out okay, but it's got little bitty divots and I don't think there's any way of keeping that from going in those, so it is what it is. Blow out the excess. And let's see, what do we want to do? Purple. Just a little butterfly one purple. Yeah, you definitely have more control with the brush. what do I want to put with my UV resin? Where is my white? I'm going to mix a little UV resin. I think I'm just going to put white in these, and then we may try like a darker color in these too. I'm just going to use white glitter for these. Move this box out of the way because I'm going to need that UV light in a minute. And when you're using UV resin, you want to make sure not to use too dark of a glitter, because the UV light still needs to get through and cure this UV resin. So you don't want to use too dark because then the light can't get through, okay? Just that there. Gonna mix in some of this. No. Boy, that was left. There we go. Start with small amounts because, again, we don't want to get in that cycle to where it's back and forth. You're adding more resin, then it's not enough glitter, and then you add more resin, and then it's not enough glitter. We don't want to get stuck in that cycle. So just start with a little bit. I am going to add more resin only because I don't think that's enough for all three of those. So. Okay. So again, same thing, just like we poured our mold over there, you're just gonna pour your glitter in with your UV resin. You're gonna pour it in. You're gonna let it settle. Slow and steady is always easier, so it can fill in those gaps naturally instead of you pouring in a bunch and it doesn't fill in the gaps and then you've got air bubbles. Again, you're just pouring it up to the top rim. It is going to shrink a little bit when you cure it, so don't worry if you've got it a little bit tall. A little bit over is going to be okay. You just don't want it a lot of bit over where it's literally just running into the mold or the shape next to it. You just want it to fill that cavity but not over. Woo, we might have just enough. Yay, perfect. That was great. Okay. All right, so we're gonna let those settle in. This one's gonna be the most difficult because it's got like drippies that come down. But I'm not gonna get another thing. I'm just gonna put me some more in here and I'm just gonna use this color and we're just gonna go for it. I'm not getting a new cup. This one will fill in too. Okay. So we're gonna pour our UV resin in here. If it was a whole different color, I would not have just used the same cup, but literally it was just white. And so I feel like the white, that is the tiny bit of white that's left in here, this blue is going to overpower it and it's not going to cause an issue. So I am not worried about it. Okay. Now let's get, oh, let me put the lid back on my white. Get our blue. I'm going to pour some blue in here. Mix it in. I think that's a good consistency. Your light's still going to be able to travel through it and not cause us problems. Alright, so let's fill in this one first. Fill in this one. And this one I mixed too much, so we will just pick another one in a minute to pour our excess into. It will be okay. It's not a big deal. I always kind of like to have molds just around me and to the side anyway. Whenever I'm working with any resin, whether it's the ones I'm doing my cups or if I'm doing molds, just whatever. Just that way I have something to pour excess into, because you're not always going to get it like I did that first one. You're not always going to get the like exact amount you needed. So always have a mold handy that you can use for pouring excess in. I like these little clear cup things because they've got like a pour spout on the side, and so you're able to control it a lot better than some other ones that I've seen. Let's see. I'll fill in these little hearts. Still have some. Let's see. I think we could probably get this cross right here. Okay. A little bit more, not a bunch. Just gonna keep going until I run out, because I am not gonna waste it. Let's see what other small one we've got, because I'm not gonna have much. Let's see what we can get on the star right here. Well, maybe I'll be able to get the whole thing. Yay! thing about UV resin is you have a long working time because it doesn't cure until you hit it with the light. I mean, you can't just leave it out forever and ever in a day because it will eventually dry up, just the moisture will evaporate, but it's not going to cure on you until you hit it with the UV light. Oh, I had a bubble apparently come over. Oh, let's clean that up. We don't want that. Must have had an air bubble that pushed my resin out the top of my nozzle, and I did not see that. Alright, let's get this cleared off real quick. Get it all cleaned off. Put the lid on, and then we will cure this one. Oh no, we did make a mess. I made a mess. We didn't make a mess. Y'all didn't do it. I did. In here, that's okay. Just use some of the liquid, make our own Clorox wipe. Making something or what, but oof, something stinks. Okay. Alright, so now we're gonna cure this. Leave it right there actually. Put our stand over it. Now the thing to remember with these is, like I was saying a while ago, with UV resin you have to cure both sides. That's why you have to use a clear mold. So I'll cure this side for 2 minutes, and then I'll flip it over and I'll cure the other side for 2 minutes. Let's see, 12:36. Excuse me. I'll probably repaint this. I probably should have done it black. I like purple. I was trying to go with something dark so y'all could see it. While that's going, I'm gonna actually put me some alcohol on here and clean that off so y'all can see. So we're just gonna lightly go over. Darn it. The raised parts. Just enough to clean off that paint that dried before we could get it wiped off. And if your pores are smooth, you won't get this peeling off of the paper towel that I'm getting, but this one was rather rough. You can see where the excess is coming off. And that's what you want. And you don't want to scrub so hard that this alcohol goes into your divots, because then it will mess up your paint that's already in there and dry. And then you could even top that off with another thin layer of UV resin just to seal that paint in and to add the shine back to it. Alright, so that is 2 minutes on this side, and you can see that it's cured. So now we're going to flip it over, and we're going to do 2 minutes on this side. So 12:38, so 12:40, we'll be able to demold these, which is the nice part about these. Like I said, UV resin is very quick, but it is not food safe. And you can't do deep pours like we did with our tray back there. You can't do that with UV resin because you're not going to get it to cure. It's too thick for that light to pass all the way through. Give this another minute and then we'll be able to demold these. We didn't get to the UV resin on the mold to make the water effect, but I will see about a time to get that done so y'all can see it. Probably about 30 more seconds on this side, and then we should be able to demold these. Just kind of lifted it up to make sure that we can get the UV lights the whole part of this mold. 1240. So, alrighty. Set that again over there. And now you can see they're all cured. So now we're just gonna slowly just kind of bend it away from our mold. And there we go. So you can see the color difference inside when we put our micas. You can see the color difference there. There. Got that one a little too thick, so some of that mica powder stayed up, but and this one and our butterfly, and these are the ones that I just did the resin in. You can see kind of the difference it gives you with having that mica powder in there. So you can have that different detail with the mica powders in there, as opposed to just being one solid color. Like, okay, so like this one, I've got the mica powder on those indentions, and this one, it is 2 levels, but you can't really see the difference unless you like move it side to side, because I didn't put anything extra on those indention or raised parts in that case. But you can see the difference that it makes. These two. And if you wanted to, like if you wanted this to be shiny, because it is dull where you put your micas, but if you wanted it to be shiny, all you have to do is just put another layer of the UV resin over it and then cure it, and then it would be shiny as well. So, but that is different molds. It's how to put them together. It's how to pour the coaster, and after that coaster and the straw topper that I poured today at the very beginning, after those are completely cured, I will post a picture of them along with everything else that we made, so y'all can see what it looks like when it's done. But I think that is it for today. I'm going to try to rest my voice. And if y'all have any questions, of course, you can reach out to me and ask me. You can do the hashtag replay and then your question, so I know that it was a question that came through after I was live, so I can answer it. Post it in the group, whatever you want to do. But just let me know if you have questions and I will get you answered. But I hope y'all had fun. I hope y'all learned some different things about pouring the molds today. And I will catch y'all next weekend. Next weekend is our Zoom craft along together. So I will get that link posted in the group during this week, so that way everybody's got it and we can craft together next weekend. So y'all have a good week, and I'll see y'all then. Bye, guys.